I'm Alfonso Winker.
And I'm Trina Olson. And together, we're the co-founders of Team Dynamics.
And this is Behave. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Behave. This is our 12th episode. Levi's pointing at the board for me. I almost said 11th. This is our 12th episode. So here's what's really important. We're so proud of the work that we've done. We are so grateful to all of you that have been listening and commenting and subscribing and sharing. And we want to make sure that you do a little bit more of that. We have, up until this point, recorded 11 previous episodes, 10 of brand new content. Our 11th episode was a compilation where you got to hear some of the greatest hits and all the goodies from the first 10. We want to know what you think of the podcast. So please subscribe and like it and leave comments, but also share it with your friends. So everything we hear from you is that you're finding it juicy and you're finding it helpful and you're finding it really useful in your practice, in your workplaces. And we want to make sure that we can reach more people to engage in the conversation. So head to teamdynamicsmn.com/behave and share it with everybody you know, and like and subscribe and leave a review. Please be nice.
You know what I love about podcasts that my friends share with me?
Yes. No, I don't.
I don't know. It gives me more and different opportunities to do my laundry and do my dishes.
Yes.
Because it's my favorite way to listen to podcasts is doing tedious tasks at home that I do not care for. And I think if I don't have enough podcasts to listen to, I'm not going to ever have clean dishes.
You know who could help you with some of those tedious tasks?
Our friend here.
Our friends here from Tedious.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I love
And
being
if they wanted to advertise, I would read that script. To anybody listening, my greatest dream is to read an advertisement on a podcast. LaCroix water, you out there? I think racial and gender justice people drink a lot of LaCroix.
I think that's also true. We have to be hydrated.
Also with you.
Okay. So can I interview you today?
Yes.
Okay.
Would love it.
I like that you said yes before I told you maybe what it was going to be about.
I like when you ask me questions. It feels nice.
Okay, good. So one of the things that we have been hearing out in the wild as we do our work face-to-face and virtually all over the country is sort of this connection and disconnection that people are really struggling with around diversity, equity, and inclusion, racial healing, gender justice, kind of however folks are putting embodied leadership in that big bucket. And the wrestling seems to be really around, okay, well, when is it appropriate, right, the right time, the right way to be tackling DEI stuff? And when is it just like a separate issue? So it's this sort of silo, and how are things connected or disconnected? And Alfonso, I know you have been a manager and a leader at a lot of different kinds of organizations and on campaigns for a long time. And so I know that you take management really seriously, right? Part of why you work with organizations to this day is because I know that you have a deep belief that organizations can make a big impact and be really powerful.
I do.
So I know that you like when things are running really well. And my question, first to you today is, how do you know, or is there a difference between when something is a management issue and a DEI issue?
I need everybody to put their feet on the floor.
Oh my gosh. My feet are not.
If you're listening, if you're driving, just pull over.
Good clarity.
Put your feet on the floor.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Managers, good news, bad news. There isn't a difference between a management issue and a DEI issue.
What do you mean?
Here's how you know. We say it all the time in our training. So if you've ever been in a series of trainings with us, you will hear us say these phrases. Identity is always present. Culture always matters. So if you believe what we believe, which is those two things, identity is always present, culture always matters, then there isn't a line between a management issue and an identity issue. So on our best days, with everything that comes to us as managers, we are asking ourselves, what are the differences making the difference in this context, and what have the patterns of behavior been? Identity, differences that make a difference. Patterns, aka culture.
Right.
So you're off the hook a little bit, managers, for trying to figure out what falls into what buckets. And the responsibility, the invitation, the challenge is to always put a culture and identity layer on everything you're doing. And in the beginning, it feels far away and separate because we're trying to remember to take all the stuff we're learning in whatever capacity building we're doing, team building, culture change work, training maybe that they're going through with us or someone else, to then actually do the practical application.
Right. So here at Team Dynamics, we really talk about taking an intersectional approach with race at the center, right? Because here, race is the single biggest difference making the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about identity is always present, how have you felt that to be true for you, given your mashup of identities and the kind of problems that you have had to solve as a manager?
When I think about how identity is always present for me, I'm never not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm never not queer. I'm never not brown, third generation Mexican American. I'm never not a man. Those things may or may not grant me access or comfortability in any given particular constellation of people or rooms I'm in, but I'm never not those things. And I'm never not carrying the experiences I've had and the treatment that's been sort of at me and around me about those identities. So I'm living in a racialized and gendered America.
Right.
I'm living in and have worked at workplaces that in their policies and practice preference straight married people.
Mm-hmm.
So those things always matter to me because I'm never not those things. And what we know to be true for folks who live in a marginalized experience, or what we might call a target experience, women, people of color, LGBTQ people, we hold on to those experiences of marginalization and we remember them, and we're always wondering, am I being treated this way because of my identity?
Mm-hmm.
And we have enough evidence to often answer the question by saying, yes, that's happened to me over and over and over again. So managers, we have to remember that folks are coming to us in racialized and gendered bodies, whether or not we're remembering to tend to the experience of race and gender that our employees are bringing to us.
So what are managers' responsibilities and opportunities when an issue that they have to navigate, say it's about how we spend the budget, right? We have 3 really good ideas and we only have this much money, and so we have to make a decision. How do they have a responsibility, or where's the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of identity and culture in even a process that feels maybe benign or objective, or it's really about math or strategy? How do we thread and embed identity into that conversation? And then what's the benefits of doing that?
Sure. So I think the sequence would go something like this.
Okay.
First, we might ask ourselves, what has the pattern been? So what has the pattern of decision making or of budgeting been?
Sure.
Whom has it benefited? So which identity groups inside and outside of our organization has it benefited? Are the benefits of that budgeting process congruent with our goals and values? Probably not. Because we might have a brilliant vision statement or a set of values or a bunch of diversity, equity, inclusion goals that say, we want all people to feel respected here, and we want to be an active participant in the community that cares about the place that we are. Okay, let's look at the budgeting process. How do we spend our money? And who benefits from how we spend our money? Come to find out, we haven't, I don't know, spent a dime in the last 5 years with people of color owned caterers, for whom there are 7 down the block from us in the downtown near us, right? So if you start by saying, what has been the pattern of budgeting? Whom has benefited? Have those benefits align with our values? And then you start to say, maybe, maybe not. Or if you say, we want to have this inclusive experience and we want directors to, inform with all of their expertise the budget process. Is that part of your pattern? And which directors and why? And which do the directors who are men or the directors who are white have more of their ideas make their way into the budget or not? Just the reflection alone, I think, would start to illuminate for managers who's benefiting from this process. And because of the way bias works, it may be happening right under our noses unintentionally and then having an impact that is outside of our hope for the workplace experience that someone's having.
Last question before the lightning round. So that sounds like a lot to consider. And it makes sense when you sort of walk it backwards and sort of reverse engineer, right? Whenever I think, okay, I'm in this conversation, we're both in bodies. We had different experiences at Target. We had different experiences getting pulled over. We've had different experiences in school, right? It helps me to just remember that we're in bodies. Why in US workplaces or inside of organizations is it hard to remember that identity is always present and to navigate that? And in your experience, is it going to get easier? What makes it easier? How do you build a practice?
Why is it hard? I think, so you said we're all in bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I think the dominant white-centered, masculine-centered workplace culture in most workplaces in the United States and its colonies are asking us to be disassociated from our physical and emotional experience. We're just supposed to be brains that create output for the organization at which we work.
Right. And I like that word disassociated because you mean literally, like the number of us who have been told get to the meeting on time, even if you have to go to the bathroom first.
Right.
Yeah. That's why.
So it's that way because of that, the pervasive nature of disassociating from our bodies and our spirits. What was the second part?
The second part was how for you and how for our listeners does it get easier to just thread and embed this notion that like, yeah, so we think of this as a management or a workplace or a budget issue. Identity is part of that conversation.
Okay. So we just did a training.
We sure did.
And we got in the car and we left and we said, okay, let's debrief this training.
Right.
And we did a plus delta plus. So for folks who haven't been in organizer space, plus delta plus just means let's sandwich some feedback. So what is really strong? Yeah. What is an improvement that I could make that would significantly change the training next time?
For the better.
For the better.
Yep.
And what's another thing I'm really proud of that we did? And we did that check-in, but we ended each plus and each delta and then the plus with, and what elements of identity were present or what were the difference that were making a difference. So I had an example around debriefing after people come back from small groups. And it's something that I'm always inclined to rush through. Yeah. And I said to you, okay, so if we're layering on identity, what are the differences that are making a difference? Because I just kept saying to you, you bring them back from small groups, you're better at it. And then I said, okay, with some distance from the training and thinking about that, I'm wondering what about the work of debriefing feels like emotional labor and what assumptions have I made about women being better at debriefing with people than men. So I'm curious how gender and misogyny have something to do with why I don't prefer debriefing after people are in small groups. Yeah. So it can feel new or hard or scary or far away when you haven't done it. But now I've opened the door to say, I wonder what the experience of gender was like in that context. So managers can say, we have to debrief XYZ issue or we have to go through XYZ process. What identities are really present for people now from those? And then at the other side of doing that process, what did it feel like from those vantage points? It's more information and it will help you better relate to your staff, but also live inside of the really lofty values we often have as organizations.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do a final lightning round as well as tell you what we've been up to while we're always working on our own behavior. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Alfonso, lightning round. I've got three quick questions as we think about the false separateness that has been perpetuated about DEI issues in management.
Bring it on.
Okay. If you are new to acknowledging identity at your workplace, how do you begin? What is someone's very first step that they could take like today, this week?
Make a list of your identities. Next to each of those identities, write a formative work experience you've had through the lens of that identity. So I might write down man, Latino, gay. Those are my list. Then I might say, man, what's interesting? I don't ever think about being a man at work. That's a good enough answer. Latino, I've been the first Latino on a lot of teams. Gay, I always check the policies to see if they offer same-sex partner benefits when I get a new job.
Mm-hmm.
So just make that list for yourself. Do some self-awareness work to see how identity is or is not, or how in your awareness are your experiences of identity at work.
Second question. Can't we just skip talking about identity sometimes? I mean, it's hard and it's uncomfortable.
You could, and then you have to do the cost-benefit analysis of if it's worth not knowing the experiences that your team are having. If you want to leverage the best that they have, you have to talk about identity. If you don't want the best from your team, then don't talk about identity.
Oh,
I said it.
I know, you said it like you meant it too. You 100% mean it.
I don't not mean it in my waters.
So knowing that identity is always present, culture always matters, and we're trying to get really powerful work done, what is the very best measurement? How would we know if folks in your organization are in fact being included?
They'll tell you. Here's the trick about inclusion. It's not that I tell you how welcoming and included you are. It's that you self-report to me that you are feeling included. And we know when people are feeling included, they work harder, they work smarter, they recruit for the team, they produce more creative results, and they are interested in building a deeper relationship with their team. So there's all sorts of cool research about what happens when people say, I feel included. But you'll only know if you first ask people and allow them to tell you the truth about how they're feeling.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for letting me pick your brain and your heart and your spirit today. I know that you've been in it for a long time, and I think there's something really powerful about just releasing that old belief that somehow our identity is separate from the work we do. So thank you for letting us all release that with you today.
You're welcome.
So I'm curious, what have you been working on, reading, wrestling with, noodling over?
Yeah, so this one for me is an I'm about to read. So
cool.
I just finished Native Country of the Heart by Sherry Moraga, she's a lesbian, feminist poet and playwright and has done a lot of really cool work. So I just finished this memoir that she wrote about sort of her relationship to her mother. So next on my nightstand is Imbram Kendi's How to Be an Antiracist. It's kind of making its way around some of our circles. And I'm particularly interested in this book. We first got introduced to Imbram Kendi's work. He was a contributor on the Seeing White podcast, which we really love, and we encourage a lot of our clients to listen to some of that content. And I'm really excited about this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I haven't cracked it yet, but we're sponsoring a table at the local YWCA's It's Time to Talk, and Imbram Kendi is going to be the keynote at that luncheon. So I want to get the whole book read before we head to that event that we're sponsoring.
Great. And I think not everybody knows one of the fun practices our team has is we will order books and then somebody gets to read them first. And so you're the first person to write in them. And then sometimes we pass them around the team.
Yes.
It's great. So for me, I am excited. And what's really top of mind for me is that it looks as though we have found the right publishing partner for us to build the book that our clients have been asking for, which is a book all about how to end bias in hiring practices. Yes. I know. It's coming. It's really exciting. I've written a chapter in published books before, but this is our first big, go around, let's get it all out. So I am really thinking about how we are going to help America unbake the bias that has been locked into hiring systems that mean that people keep not really having a fair shake at getting good, quality, impactful, purposeful jobs.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
I'm excited.
Thanks for hanging out with us today and listening to this latest episode of Behave. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a review. You can get all the latest information about Behave at teamdynamicsmn.com/behave. What are you thinking about related to management and identity? You can tweet us at Team Dynamics LLC. Thanks for hanging out. Make good choices. Behave is produced by Levi Weinhagen in Studio G at the Glenn Nelson Center. Yeah, I knew you'd sneaky little minx. What does that mean? That's not a thing.
That was fine.